right, good evening. It's Thursday, June 11th. I'm going to call this session of the Ridgefield City Council to order. Would you please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilor Lee Wells.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, please be seated. Miss Julie, would you please call a roll?
Councilmember Davis.
Present.
Councilmember Favela. Here. Councilmember Wells. Here. Councilmember Burkle. Councilmember Hamilton.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Chipman.
Here.
Mayor Cole.
Here. And Council, I'd accept a motion to excuse Councilor Burkle from tonight's meeting.
I motion to approve Councilor Burkle.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, Council. Council Burkle's excused. All right, late changes to the agenda. We are going to strike the Planning Commission appointment from tonight's meeting agenda. We are not quite ready for that. We'll be putting a notice out to get more applications. Mr. Stewart, are there any other late changes to the agenda beyond that?
No other late changes, Mayor.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. We do have a couple of proclamations this evening. I'm pleased to do that. And as we do, I just wanted to offer a couple of words to preface these proclamations. Proclamations, I think, across the county have become a wider topic of conversation lately, no secret about that. And the question always comes up is, why do we do them? And are they just ceremonial, or do they carry any actual weight? And I would suggest that the proclamations that we do here at the Ridgefield City Council actually do matter to the people who receive them. And I hear it from a lot of people, both throughout the community. I get text messages, social media messages, emails, and people run into me all the time, as the rest of us do. And so I think they do matter. And it's a way for us to say something out loud, collectively, on the record from our dais. And that is a choice to say it. And I think that's the whole point. Because some of what we recognize are groups of people and their history. And some of it is a cause that prompts us to move forward. But underneath it, every single one of these proclamations that we do is the same message, that we see you, and what matters to you matters to us, and so that you have a place here. And that's not a small thing for a city to say. It may be one of the truest things we actually do here. We are committed to being a community where everyone is welcome, and where we are willing to keep doing the work until people's experiences reflect that. And the real work starts when we leave this dais to demonstrate that we mean it, and to make it a reality and bring others along with us. So tonight, we say it. Not because the calendar tells us to, but because we believe in a Ridgefield that shows up, that speaks up, and that makes sure that no one is ever left wondering whether or not they belong. So with that, we have two proclamations, both for Juneteenth observance and Ride Transit Month. And the first one I have is for Juneteenth Day of Observance. So I'm going to read it. We have Ms. Karen Morrison and Levita here tonight to receive it. I'll read it, and then we'll present it to you, and then we'll let you say a few words if you would. So the proclamation says, whereas President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863, declaring that all enslaved people shall, quote, shall be then thenceforward and forever free. In practice, the proclamation could only be enforced where Union military forces were present. And whereas Juneteenth commemorates June 19, 1865, when 2,000 Union soldiers arrived at Galveston, Texas, the most remote Confederate state, bringing news that the Civil War had ended. And all of the 250,000 enslaved people in Texas were now free. And whereas Juneteenth was recognized as a federal holiday in 2021 and a Washington state holiday in 2022, but has been celebrated by Black Americans for over a century. This holiday represents both a celebration of achieved freedom and a continuing call to action for the full realization of liberty and equality for all Americans. And whereas while Juneteenth doesn't eliminate structural racism in America, the city of Ridgefield recognizes the holiday as a critical and culturally significant milestone and long and necessary process of emancipation of Black people, and encourages creating a country and a city that truly stand for freedom, justice, dignity, and opportunity for all. And whereas festivities in Clark County this year included Juneteenth Freedom Celebration event on Saturday, June 20th at Vancouver's Esher Short Park, sponsored by Odyssey World International Education Services. Now, therefore, I, Matt Cole, Mayor of the City of Ridgefield, Washington, do hereby proclaim the month of June as Juneteenth Day of Observance, and I encourage all residents to recognize this day and honor of the hard-won freedoms of Black Americans that reflect on the progress we've made together and recommit ourselves to unity, choosing love over hate, and working together to eradicate inequity in our community. Dated this 11th day of June, 2026. Come on up. Council will go down for a quick photo op, if you will.
Come back, sorry. Sorry, guys. Okay. And I thank you. Good evening, everyone. I just want to say with pride that I am so happy that the city of Ridgefield understands that they're turning history around for the good, that sometimes undoing hurtful harms for generations, it takes a few brave people like your mayor to say enough is enough. Let's turn it around. Let's undo all the hurt and harms that were caused and make this a place that's freedom for everyone, and everyone is welcome here. And I just can't thank you enough because I feel like my ancestors are smiling right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again. As I said, we have a second proclamation tonight. This one is for Ride Transit Month, and we have kindly Leanne Caver from C-Tran has agreed to join us this evening. We're glad you're here, Leanne. I know it's been a busy day for you. So we'll do the same thing. I'll read it, and we'll have you come up and say a few words. This proclamation reads, whereas Ride Transit Month is an annual event in Washington that encourages people to use public transportation, prompting sustainable travel, reducing traffic, cutting emissions, and discovering how easy it can get around without driving alone. And whereas public transit empowers passengers by providing mobility options that connect them with places of employment, education, healthcare, shopping, entertainment, recreation, social and religious functions. And whereas C-Tran was founded in 1981, that'd be a long time to have buses. Pioneers. C-Tran was founded in 1981 and provides cost-effective, safe, accessible, and reliable transportation for people in Clark County, including vulnerable populations, residents who cannot or do not drive, and low-income residents. And whereas C-Tran operates Route 48 and the current on-demand rideshare service here in Ridgefield, and whereas approximately 4,500 Ridgefield youth age 18 and under can ride transit for free on local routes throughout the Youth Opportunity Program, and veterans and active duty personnel can ride free with the Heroes Pass. Now, therefore, I, Matt Cole, Mayor of the City of Ridgefield, Washington, do hereby proclaim the month of June 2026 as Ride Transit Month, and encourage all residents to take transit to places you need to go, or to celebrate neighbors who use transit to connect them with the important places and people in their lives. Dated this 11th day of June, 2026. There you go. Thank you so much. Yeah. Okay, one more photo, council. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I just want to say thank you to Mayor Matt Cole and to all the council members for acknowledging Right Transit Month. It is very important that everyone realizes the impact of transit for whether you're dependent or choice rider. We are here to serve the community for their needs. And we, as he said, we encourage everyone to, whether you don't ride transit usually, but to get out this month and get out there and see how well and easy it is to navigate our system and to see how it impacts your community. So thank you.
Thank you again. Yeah. It's good. I like doing proclamations. For that reason.
I just wanted to say thank you to C-Tran. I wanted to say thank you to C-Tran. I wanted to say that there's a combination here that C-Tran helped to make Juneteenth possible. They provide rides and they also advertise our event. And so it's truly a community connecting thing. And I just want to say thank you for all the work that you've done.
Thank you again. Yeah. Well said. Okay. It is now time for a public comment. Anyone wishing to address City Council regarding items not subject to a specific public hearing may come forward at this time to the podium or use the raised hand feature located at the toolbar at the bottom of your Zoom screen. For controls over the phone, press *9 for raise hand and press *6 to mute or unmute. And please state your name and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Okay, can I hand something out?
Yeah, you can, that's fine.
I don't want it to eat into my 3 minutes.
That's fine.
Thank you. And then should I, thank you
Yeah,
so
sure.
much.
Yeah.
I really guard those 3 minutes. Good evening, my name is Judith Reel. I sent a letter to the council yesterday and to the mayor about the store on Pioneer in Maine, a House of Smoke, with a sandwich board out front advertising the sale of Kratom. And you all have a picture of that sandwich board. I was alerted to this by a mother of 2 small kids who said, you know, the city's done such a good job of making downtown family friendly. Why would they allow this sign right in the middle of downtown? And her little girl's going to start learning to read, and pretty soon she's going to want to know what kratom is, because they love spelling signs. Kratom is touted as medicinal, but it's known as gas station heroin, herbal street ball. It is completely unregulated in the state of Washington. Children may buy it. It is often used as a stimulant by high school students and junior high students, and then in greater doses acts as an opioid and can cause hallucinations. It can be fatal, particularly when interacting with other drugs. There was just a tragedy in the city of LA where a mayoral candidate, former publisher of the LA Times, dropped out because his 22-year-old college student daughter was found dead on the side of a freeway because of kratom and how it interacted with the prescription drug she was on. Now, what can you do about the sign? I don't believe the city can regulate the contents of signs downtowns because you'll have First Amendment issues and you guys are going to lose that. And you could prohibit all sandwich board signs downtown. And that seems to me to be terribly unfair to the legitimate businesses that use that to attract customers. But I think what you can do is prohibit the sale. The city of Spokane recently prohibited the sale of kratom in city limits. Spokane Valley did. 2 other jurisdictions have done it. And the MSRC, and I cited to the part of the MSRC in my letter, says that you can do that too, that is within the authority of the city to do. And I think it would actually be very exciting to be the first in Clark County to ban it. If that makes you uncomfortable, then another thing that the city could do is to ban it within 1,000 feet of a school, and that would at least eliminate the downtown sales. And importantly, I'm not asking you to take my word for what kratom is. I, Googled it and have looked online. I would ask the police chief what she thinks about businesses marketing kratom to children in Ridgefield who can go in without their parents and buy it. I would ask the administrators in the high school and the junior high if they like stores in Ridgefield marketing kratom to their students. We know that raising kids is really hard, and I think the city does a really good job of trying to make it easier, and I think this is one really important area that they could do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to give public comment this evening?
Hi, my name is Robin Knight. I'm a Ridgefield resident. You probably think I'm here to talk about the waterfront, and I do have one suggestion on that subject, which was given to me last night by somebody who is a former employee of the city. Thought it might be worth considering at some point in the future, maybe a joint study session between City Council and the Port, which the public can attend and learn more about the process of how you guys will be working together with the waterfront redevelopment. Anyway, that's one suggestion. What I really wanted to talk about tonight was something that happened last night when I was on my way home from the Port Commission meeting and a couple other meetings that I had after that. And I was driving up Pioneer, east from downtown, just past the Ryman Road turn. Someone had hit a tiny baby fawn, looked to be less than a week old. I'm sure it didn't even know what a car was at that point. It was probably too little to jump over the barrier after its mom, is what I'm imagining happened, because it was right there between the road and the barrier. So I stopped and pulled off and moved it farther off the road because I saw its mom a little bit further up the road cross over in front of me, and I was worried that she was going to come back for it and be in the road herself and also get hit. So I know this is a problem on that stretch of road around what's known as the S-curves, and that it's been that way for a long time, and I think it's probably easy to just think, well, there's nothing we can do because it's been going on for a long time and it's just, it's sad, but what can we do? But if I've learned anything in the last couple of months, there's always something you can do. So just a quick Google of some possible solutions. Here's some ideas: flashing signs during fawning season, May through July, signs that indicate actual collision statistics, temporary seasonal signs when fawns are most active. On a road like that where visibility is often an issue, clearing brush near the road edge where it's safe and appropriate, creating longer sight lines around the curve, remove vegetation that attracts deer directly adjacent to the roadway, reflective road markings, including enhanced curve warning signs, reflective delineator posts, larger chevrons around the bend, high visibility edge striping. So these are just some of the ideas that I quickly Googled while I was sitting here. So I'm happy to send them your way via email, but I would love it if there was something we could do to try to keep that from happening again and again during this season every year. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to give public comment?
Okay.
Yes, hi.
So I'm going to follow after what she said. You need my name, right? Okay.
Yes.
So Shauna Fisher, Ridgefield resident, and I do have a couple things about the waterfront. I want to say it was cool to go to the port meeting yesterday and, have them listen and hear how receptive and how they have plans for community engagement, which is awesome, right? So thank you for that. And I think it'd be cool, like, if you guys did come together with a joint study session and joint community engagement and how it all ties in with the RISE initiative and how it ties in with Ridgefield Main Street, which is, the heart of Ridgefield, right? So how it can all tie in together. So I just want to tie in with what Robin was saying about the baby deer. So I was on the road and I helped her last night, when I came back with her and to help the deer, somebody move the deer out of the road more, right? So Ridgefield Police came. But what was really interesting is we were in the road, had the flashers on, and it was very disheartening to see how many people were driving on Pioneer there, right by Ryman, like it's Lewis 503. Like, it's crazy to see how fast people just there was like 3 people that were like, hey, is everything okay? But so it's, I think that's kind of goes to say it would be nice if maybe there was another like deer crossing sign like there is further up on Pioneer, because there is a lot of blind curves there, and that's, just heartbreaking to see that, this little, lifeless life that could have had more life, and it's very sad to see that. So and it just goes to show too, with the more growth and stuff, it just goes to show there's got to be more, if there's more ways to kind of work with maybe reducing the speed, or maybe having some sort of awareness so people could slow down to prevent that from happening, because that's not good for people, not good for deer. It's not a good thing all around, right? So I think that would be a good thing to address. And then there was something else I had on here. I'm just gonna like talk, because I'm a good rambler. So, I was gonna say, so the port is gonna be doing a new survey for the waterfront, and I think it would be cool if you guys collaborated on that survey, you know, because you've heard a lot of the concerns with the waterfront, and that way you guys can maybe work together to, you know, so there you go. Collaboration, right? It's how we can work together. So that's that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is John Gerard, owner of Quail Homes. I also have a nonprofit I started 5 years ago to close the gap with skilled trades and the training with the high schools. So here in Ridgefield, if you've been up there by the water tower at the high school, that skilled trade center was something that we put together. I just kind of want to comment on a student there. This year at Skills USA competition took first place in the state for cabinet making, and he just got back from Atlanta and finished 10th in a very stiff competition, which is pretty cool to see that. And then on the home building front, you know that we did Quail Ridge over there by Windy Hills. There's a grand opening on the 27th. You guys want to put that on your list. And there is an item on the docket tonight. I just want to thank your teams, everybody that we've worked with. It's gone real well, not only on Quail Ridge, but also on the project for tonight. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room this evening wishing to give public comment? Okay, Miss Julie, anybody online?
No one online.
Okay, with that, we will close public comment and move on to our consent agenda. Council, I would accept the motion to approve, excuse me, just dropped my pen. To approve as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second. Okay, is it moved and seconded? Any discussion, council? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, council. Consent agenda carries. All right. Next on our meeting, we have a presentation. This is a presentation on the Ridgefield Community and Recreation Center and the Capital Campaign Readiness Report. Mr. Stewart, going to kick us off, it sounds like?
I will. Thank you, Mayor, members of the council and the community. As part of the 2026 budget, City Council approved the Parks Revenue Program Budget Initiative, which included evaluating revenue strategies for park and recreation facilities. A component of the initiative's scope was to assess the city's readiness for a capital campaign in support of the Ridgefield Community and Recreation Center, develop campaign tools, and identify considerations for future implementation. Pacific Northwest Fundraising was selected as the consultant to support the work. City staff, supported by Pacific Northwest Fundraising, are here to present the final capital campaign readiness report. And we have Eddie Allen, and I don't even know your official title with it. Owner, lead guide for Pacific Northwest Fundraising to come walk us through all of that. We're looking forward to a good discussion with council. We're looking for your feedback, your input. Before we finalize any capital campaign, we want to make sure that this truly is a capital campaign readiness report. So we want to make sure we're ready and that we're hitting the marks that you're seeking before we go out and make this all real. So with that, I'll turn it over to Eddie. Thanks, Steve.
Perfect. All right. Mayor, council members, Steve, thank you for your time tonight. Before we begin, I want to just take a moment to acknowledge that two people made this partnership exceptional. City Manager Steve Stewart and Parks Manager Corey Crownhart, who's not here tonight. Their leadership, collaboration, and trust in the process have been outstanding. This work reflects the partnership, and to the community members who are in the room tonight, welcome. This project's for you, and I'm glad that you're here tonight. Tonight's one of my favorite kind of proceedings and meetings to be in. It's not to talk about problems, we're here to talk about what's possible for Ridgefield. So let's just walk you through our findings and what we're covering tonight. Okay, quick on the agenda. First, a little bit about who Pacific Northwest Fundraising, who we are. Second, what the city asked us to do and our findings. Third, what we built, the deliverables. We exceeded scope and then some. Fourth, the opportunity itself, $50 million, 2 projects, 1 community that's ready. And finally, what's needed for the next steps. Okay, so who Pacific Northwest Fundraising? Who we are is we're a Southwest Washington-based development consulting firm. We work with public agencies, nonprofits, and civic institutions on exactly this kind of work: capital campaigns, major donor strategy, and sponsorship development. We're local. We're not a firm from Seattle or Portland. We know the region, the donor landscape, who gives, why they give, and what they respond to. This engagement is led by myself, along with Sherry Martin, my right-hand person, and our full support team. So we had a full bench behind this project. And over the 7 months of partnering, 100% of deliverables complete and finished ahead of schedule. So let's take a look exactly what the city asked us to do. Okay, in October of 2025, the City of Ridgefield issued a formal scope of work. We identified 5 main goals. Those were to identify and catalog donor-eligible assets at both the projects, every naming opportunity, sponsorship asset at the Community Rec Center and the work. Benchmark comparable jurisdictions. What are other peer cities doing? So looked at 7 or 8 other cities here in the Pacific Northwest region. What's the going naming right for a gymnasium in a community like Ridgefield? Development recommendations for sponsored tiers and naming rights, not just a list, but an actual framework the city can use. Produce professional donor solicitation materials, a donor toolkit that staff can pick up and walk into a donor meeting today, and provide practical implementation roadmap, a step-by-step path from where you are to a fully launched campaign, capital campaign. So what's delivered and what's ahead of scheduled? So if you look at the table here, a lot of green and all complete, not in progress, major donor slide deck, peer benchmarking summary, a gift range chart, which is also interactive, which can change as the gifts come in, an asset valuation framework, full naming rights, matrix for the rec center, donor tiers and profiles, which was not in the original scope, and a strategic campaign framework and council presentation prep. So everything on track and done and delivered first part of May. So what exactly did the city of Ridgefield, what do you all have now? What are those deliverables? So in the campaign toolkit, you have a major donor deck, which is a professional slide deck you can have to hand to a prospective donor, donor recognition opportunities, and the community impact story. Those are all ready to go. You have a campaign case for support, a compelling donor narrative for the community and rec center, ready for leadership conversations. You have the donor and sponsorship asset catalog, so every asset across both projects organized and valued. So when a donor asks what they can put their name on, you have the answer. You have a peer benchmarking summary, what Hillsborough did, Bend, Spokane, Everett, what those cities did, what Vancouver did, what Furstenberg did. So those numbers are grounded in real data. You have a gift range chart, which is kind of a fundraising GPS, shows how many gifts you need for each level, and that roadmap, the 6 phases, foundation to grand opening. Okay, next slide, the toolkit in action. So these are actual tools, not just, so it's not just theory. You have a gift range chart, which you can see on the left, exactly how to come up with the $25 million. And the $25 million is reflective of the community rec center portion. The full $50 million goal includes both projects and the asset valuation of those. So if you look at this closely, you can see the 3 top lead gifts cover about 64% of the goal. Our prospect research and summary. On the right is a summary of the prospect research. We've identified and profiled 24 prospects categorized by capacity tier. So the pipeline is real, the priorities are detailed, and the full research is available to council and the ASK team. So what's the opportunity look like? So let's see. Okay. Whoops. Yeah. Okay, so $50 million, that's a big number. We know the 2 stories, 2 pools. It's a community-owned and community-funded project. The building is in advanced design, creates a sense of urgency, and the urgency is a fundraiser's best friend. So the question isn't whether the community can raise $50 million. The question is how we get started. So, hold on 1 sec. Sorry, I think we're on. Yeah, we're on one. I think back one. One more? There we go. So, yeah, that's okay. So here's where we're at on the roadmap. Right now, we're at the foundation. This is where we've been. Strategy, materials, leadership, alignment is done. This catalyst, kind of what the quiet phase, where we're going next, is securing the lead gift. Founders gifts, kind of the public phase, gifts of $25,000 to $100,000, get naming opportunities locked in. You've got momentum on your side, the groundbreaking, the public narrative shift with that. You've got community-wide opportunities, bricks, benches, micro donations, and then, of course, legacy, donor wall installed, grand opening. Like I said, we're here right now at this catalyst phase as we get ready to launch the capital campaign. So with fundraising, everything's timing. You have construction momentum is real. Your community model is a strength. You have responsible and financially sustainable growth. The toolkit's complete, and the right people are in the room, right? The lead gift prospects in Ridgefield are connected to the city manager and city council, not to a consulting firm. That's a real asset. We've provided the strategy for you. So if you're not really waiting for a right moment, you're in it, and here's what that means next for the next steps. So the campaign needs a defined ask team before any public announcement. The lead gifts are secured. City manager, city council, and the ask team needs to be put in place. The $50 million goal is achievable. The research confirms it. Our benchmarking from comparable communities supports this. Identify lead relationship opportunities. So not only the folks that we've identified through the donor prospects, but we kind of call that who do you know for the public phase of the campaign. And then finally secure a fiscal sponsor to receive donations. So it's essential for donor tax deductions and foundation grant eligibility. So again, I'll just say that the time is right to continue to move forward with this. Our research shows that. So in closing, Ridgefield's growing. This project, the Community Rec Center, creates an indoor hub for belonging wellness for the community. Thank you again for your time. I'm proud of what we've built together, and I'm really excited about what comes next. Happy to take any questions.
Great, thank you, Eddie. We appreciate it.
Oh, sure. Can I look at that real quick? Yeah. Corey, who's not here, asked us to put together kind of a little readiness packet. Now, this isn't all-inclusive, right? This is just some of the highlights for it. In it is the case for support. So the narrative, you always start with a capital campaign with that strong narrative that you want to be able to share with your donor. Corresponding to that is a tear sheet, right, for kind of a donor leave behind, and the professional slide deck as well. Oftentimes, I'll tell you, transformational donors really don't need that. That's maybe more for public use. So you have a strong case for support. You also have the naming rights, asset valuation. There's the tear sheet here, kind of a leave behind that's printed out as well. We worked with the city on that for the design and the different colors of that. So that's inside of this packet as well. There's a major donor conversation outline. So, our job was to create this toolkit that when you go in to talk to a donor, you have everything for that conversation, right? So the case for statement, you've got a tear sheet, you've got the slide deck, and then anticipated questions that the donor could ask, right? So you're all prepared for that. Along with your asset valuation and the donor profile, when you walk into that room, you'll know the capacity of that donor, right? So to be able to then look at that asset valuation and whether that donor is someone for naming rights or some other part of the project. So that's kind of the highlights of this little packet. Again, there's about 38 total deliverables in it, and that's in the final report in an external folder. This is just some of the high-end highlights of it for your viewing tonight.
Great.
Mayor and Council, that's basically it. So we wanted to start with that as a brief presentation just to open the conversation. And Eddie mentioned it. Not only does Eddie have great experience and background in this area and in this community, Sherry, who's not with us today, Sherry Martin, many of you already know. Sherry was the director of the Vancouver Clark Parks Foundation for many years. She also was a Ridgefield resident for many, many years and lived here. I mean, it had to have been for like 30 years or so. Yeah. So has a great knowledge base of our area. So it's been a great partner in kind of figuring some of this stuff out.
That's great. Okay, great. Thank you, Eddie, for the presentation. This is great. Council, we'll go to questions for Eddie or staff and discussion on this. I'll look around. Does anybody have any questions they want to go first for staff? Councilor Hamilton.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Allen. I have recently changed career paths into philanthropy, so this is, I have some questions and appreciate your presentation. So first of the questions, how were prospects identified in your prospect identification process? And what distinguishes them as viable prospects outside of financial capacity? Because as I've learned, wealth doesn't necessarily equal philanthropic interest.
Yeah, so there was some preliminary work done by the Y on that. And so we took that original list. We used a tool called, which made up the foundation of it. We used a tool called Donor Search then to look in the area for folks who are philanthropic, who give to like causes, and then broke that down into, again, with being involved in the philanthropic world for the past 15 years, on the donors who give to these kind of projects, right? So it created that benchmark and then the donor profile. Donor profile addresses exactly what you're asking, like, do they give to like projects, right? So we wouldn't want to ask somebody whose passion is about dogs and cats, right? I mean, that's a fantastic passion. They're not a prospect for this. So they were matched up by capacity, their past giving history to like projects, and kind of their overall history to like projects, right? So there's folks in that pipeline and the prospect list to given things like the Furstenberg Center and stuff like that in our community.
And then within that first catalyst phase, like what milestones or benchmarks are going to be achieved before moving that phase into the public-facing phases of the campaign?
Yeah, that's a great question. So typically you want to have about 60% of the total funds raised in the quiet phase, right? So that's where you're going out meeting with these lead donors, securing those donations before you go to the public phase.
Okay, great. Councilor Wells, any questions at this point?
One simple one. You said Sherry's on staff with you?
Yeah, yeah.
How many other individuals do you have working?
It depends on the project. We have a core 5, though. Sometimes we go up a little bit more than that, but a core 5 with the team.
Okay, that's my only question I have. Thank you.
Councilor Favela?
What is a timeline that we have for a commitment at an anticipated level? And is there assurance that that will actually come through versus saying, yes, I'm interested, and then the timeline passes and they don't commit?
What I believe what we've talked about is that tying that to kind of the construction time frame. I believe there was like looking for 70 or 80% of that gift within the first 18 months, and then the remaining percentage over the next year, if I'm not mistaken on our conversation. So I think it's really a 2-year period from the time they make that pledge for you to then get the total funds.
Okay. And then what is your organization, Pacific Northwest Fundraising, role in also speaking with potential donors, or are you saying, nope, council, this is up to you all, and you're gonna do all the communicating with potential donors?
Yeah, well, the scope of this project was to do this readiness report, right? And then hand off to the city manager and the city council for that next step on donor acquisition.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Davis?
Yeah, I guess mine's a little bit more on the minutia, because I appreciate the questions those are things that were on my mind. So what are some of the examples of, even some of the smaller gifts? I mean, I realize that we're going to be going after some pretty major ones like naming rights, but, and I would assume like maybe the pool, but what are going to be some of the other opportunities for someone that, maybe they're not going to cough up $1 million, but 100,000? What does that get you?
Yeah. So the full asset matrix goes from naming rights. We wanted to make sure it was fair and equitable, that people could, whether it's a brick, a bench, a room, all levels, all the way down to buying a $100 brick like that. So So yeah, I think within the community center, there's the rooms, there's the lobby, there's the outside assets, there's the walkway. It's about 200, on the total list. So it's pretty extensive. Again, that's in the final report. All those have been cataloged for both projects with an asset value that was tied to the project.
And I guess I take it that all of those, if we get people that want to contribute and be a part of this, we would have 200 plaques around the entire.
You could, that's one of the things, like whether it was a donor recognition wall. If you look at, I guess we're just talking about the recreation center, but like for the sports complexes, you can put things on the field, on the walkway. So again, it's pretty all-inclusive on the different things that have naming rights and values. Again, it all comes all the way down from multi-million to $50.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Councilor Vivella.
Thank you. Because we don't actually have someone identified to come in and run this facility, how confident are we to talk about what we will provide as of now? Like, we have an envision of what we would like to do versus what may actually happen.
You want to take that one? Yeah.
So for the capital campaign, we're looking at physical assets. We're not looking at programming. So when we're talking about a partner that would come in, we do know what the physical location looks like. The design has already been approved by council. So we have interior and exterior design with a full asset list that has been identified, cataloged, and monetized by our fundraising firm. So as far as how confident are we that the list of what we would be asking for money for would be there, we're very confident because those are capital pieces of it. Programmatic pieces of it are something that on the operations side aren't part of the capital campaign.
But it's listed in the readiness packet on what the center will provide, and that's
The
what
programs are?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
What I'm speaking to is that, how comfortable are we including that in this
a good
readiness
question.
packet when we don't really know?
I know that we've looked at baseline programming, but that's a really good question and something that we can look at before we finalize the report. And so it's not something that we put out there with programs that then later on we say, yeah, that's not part of what we're going to be doing. It's a great idea.
Thank you.
Of course.
Great. We'll go to Councilor Davis, and then we'll go to Councilor Hamilton after that.
Well, I think you just hit on it. I was just going to say, I think it would be, proper for us to maybe formalize some of that so we don't go out, because you never know what somebody could latch onto. They might be like, oh, you know what, I took a cooking class at a thing and that was awesome, and that's maybe what gets them over. And then all of a sudden, if we don't offer a cooking class, then that's not great, right? And so just to make sure that whatever we have is, because we have that authority to no matter who's running this, to say this is required, to be able to formalize that before we go out.
No, and there are certainly some things, like a good example of that is swim lessons. One of the things early on when we were working with the YMCA, they had a potential donor that they were speaking to that potentially was willing to give a major gift. And their whole story was about when they were growing up and that everybody went and got swim lessons so that they knew how to swim, and they got them free from the community center that had a pool. And so their conversation was about, well, maybe their gift would be going toward free swim lessons, for kids of families that couldn't afford them. And so that's a programmatic piece, to your point, in that, but it's one, so while it may be identified, if it's something that council says, yeah, we need to make sure that we have an auditorium that has 2 pools, and one of them is specifically set up so you can do swim lessons, that swim lessons are part of it. And that then that becomes an asset that we can monetize. So certainly we can work with you on, are there a baseline set of programs in the community center, in the recreation center, that you as a council are saying, as a community, we need these things so that when we're going out and talking with potential partners, which will be very soon, we're finalizing the RFP to go out and find a partner for operating and managing the facility, that we make sure that that's part of the conversation with them, that expectation.
Great. Okay. We'll go to Councilor Hamilton and then Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Forgive me if I'm just misunderstanding the slides here, but we have 50 million as a number that's being talked about here, but then we also have 38 to 42 million as a goal. So can you highlight what that $50 million mark is?
Yeah, the difference is that the total asset valuation on the naming rights actually exceeds the total amount that you need to raise. So, which is pretty common in a project like this, right? Because you have naming rights over term, and they could turn over. So the actual total valuation is that $50 million.
Okay. And so sort of piggybacking on what Councilor Favela was talking about earlier, can we highlight a contingency plan if the fundraising underperforms?
Maybe Eddie, you can talk through a little bit, like when you've seen fundraising plans that have underperformed.
Yeah.
How do they pivot? How do they adjust?
I've been involved with one of those, and we added another year that we could go back and extend the time frame. So over that 2 years, this was actually a 5-year capital campaign, and we came up a little bit short. So we went back to those donors and extended it another year for 6 years on that term, and we're able to make the number.
Do you think there's a reason that was underperforming in that particular campaign and something we can avoid here, something we need to look at ahead of time?
It's not really apples to apples. That was a religious institute that I was involved in at that time. I think they were just kind of tired of being asked in that sense. And so that's why we had to extend. I'm confident that the capacity in the community is that number with the valuation and naming rights. But again, if you did have to pivot, I mean, it's pretty common to add another year that folks could make that donation over.
Well, one other thing we can do is like Eddie was talking about, there's Excel spreadsheets that talk about the different funding levels, and excuse me, and we can adjust them as we get some of those filled in. So if if naming rights for the entire complex are, $6 to $8 million, and it comes in at 5. Then you go through that spreadsheet and you say, okay, well, it was under on that. So then do you adjust to get to that bottom line? Do you adjust the rest of the points, the rest of the columns, the rest of the rows in that Excel spreadsheet to be able to kind of recalculate what the values of the rest of the assets are to get to that same dollar amount? So you can either look at changing the dollar amount, you can look at it adding time, or you can look at changing the individual monetization of each one of those assets.
Yeah.
Perfect. So on slide 5, are we going to get access to all of that information for our own review, or what does that look like?
I mean, you got to talk to the right person. You can probably get it.
Can I talk to the right person?
Yeah, you're talking to the right person.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah,
I would love to see slide 5 information. Thank you.
We have all of that detail. We wanted to give you the top line now, but we'll dive deep into to the question about like what are all the assets. We have that list with the 200 different assets.
Yeah.
We have the spreadsheets. I'll make sure that that's all available to council.
Yeah. Great, thank you.
There's a final report and an external folder. Like I said, I believe it's like 38 or 40 separate deliverables, that you'll all be able to have access to.
Great, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Chipman.
Maybe I was not paying attention when this was brought up, but I was not aware that the council was the people who were going out and soliciting the money from everyone.
So I can speak to that a little bit. So again, the scope of this project was to develop the plan. And then on the implementation of the plan, the question is, how do you implement the plan? When we began this conversation, it was at a time when we had parted ways with the YMCA, who had said they were going to start a capital campaign and didn't. And then ultimately the question was, well, we have an advisory body that was set up, created, to actually help with fundraising activities. We have the relationships with the key, kind of the top tier donors, so why couldn't we move forward with something? So that was the question. So that was the research question, is could we do that? Do we have the relationships? Do we have the structure? Do we have the foundations and support? And do we have the donor base in the area that gives to these types of projects? And the answer is yes. So when we talk about the council participating, a good example of that is for top tier donors. For top tier donors, the conversations are, you have a couple of key staff. Myself and Corey are the staff members that start as the lead within that. And then the question becomes, who has the relationships with those top tier donors? Because we know who they are. You know who they are in this community and throughout Clark County. And the question is, who has the relationships with them that go into the room with me to be able to actually go talk it through? And do we have the materials available for us to be able to have a good conversation and get to those top tier donations? And that was the research question. And in our work, I think Eddie, and I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but I think the answer was, yeah, you have what you need to be successful within this. So the goal for us would be top-tier donor conversations would be led by myself and Corey Crownhart, that we would engage with the mayor and potentially a council member that has a relationship with top-tier donors that we are working with. And then beyond that, as we get down to that next level, we have a group of individuals, several of whom I've already spoken with, that were part of that advisory body, the capital campaign committee that was put up by the YMCA, and I've asked them, are you willing to come back together and raise money for this facility? And the answer I've gotten from all of them was yes. The only thing they wanted to know was, is it going to be real? Because their concern before was they came together, they had meetings, and nothing happened. So which is totally valid, people's time is valuable. So that was their main concern. They just wanted to say, all right, yeah, we're happy to come together. Do you have a strategy? And we're like, yeah, we do. But that would be the next tier, is getting them involved. So it wouldn't all be just leaning on council and saying, here's a book, go raise money. That's not the plan.
Okay, 'cause my blood pressure went up about 15 degrees
Fair enough.
at the beginning of this conversation, so I'm just
Totally
trying to calm down here. I'm not real good at asking people for money, but if you're going to go and all I have to do is go with you, Mr. Manager, okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Well, and a lot of these materials are really to help everybody who goes into those rooms feel confident and comfortable with the message, with the project, with the giving levels, with the donor profiles in hand, so you know who you're talking with and what their history and their history of giving is, so that you feel confident going in with that as well.
I ask people for money all the time for neighbors helping neighbors, but that's a little different, you know what I mean?
See, you are good at it then.
That's good. I had a question too on this, and it's related to what you just spoke about. So I'm kind of glad we're on the topic. And Eddie, you mentioned earlier in the presentation that the research does show that this is attainable. And so without doing a deep dive,
Yeah.
I would like you to maybe expound on what did that research show, maybe a little bit more specifically. And I ask that in part because the sense I get from my fellow council members who are here as listening to their questions, and actually to Ms. Judy's question, is that this is a daunting number, and it's a lofty goal to go after. I'm not afraid of it, but I want to make sure we have all the confidence in the world that hey, we're going after the right people, we're having the right conversations. And so what does that research show?
Sure. Again, we didn't start with that number and then try to fill it in, right? That's literally a capacity number from the prospects and donors that we've identified who give to projects like this. Okay, so we didn't backfill it at all. We started then, looking at similar projects across the region, looked at those naming rights, the asset values of all that, and to put that research together. Again, when it came down to those donors, we're talking, like Steve mentioned earlier, we do know quite a few of them, right? It's not a secret in Clark County. We're not putting their names up there, and there's also kind of a tier within that tier. There's kind of a top 5 or 6 where there's a domino effect that once you get those leadership gifts that it trickles down. And that's really the most important part of this campaign is starting there. And I think once you gain the momentum with that, absolutely the community has the capacity to support this.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And then just a second question too, you talked about the scope of your firm's work was really this readiness report that you're presenting to us right now. That you took us to there. And then from here, city manager and council will take it and we'll have those conversations going forward. Is that pretty typical in your experience that that's how you run? Like you do sort of like the scoping and the readiness and then hand it off to your client and we take it from there, or do you often come along with us?
It depends. It depends, right? So we're in another campaign where we're going to be in the room. Certainly for probably the first 5 or 10, and then hand off, which kind of teach them how to fish, kind of thing.
Yeah.
You see this in a local capital campaign like this. I think it makes a lot of sense that it's from council and Steve that way. It is something that we can do. I mean, we also looked at down the road, especially on the sponsorship side for the Rourke out there. I mean, we're working with a lot of those folks right now on regular gala sponsors, okay? So we could certainly handle that aspect. But yeah, if that's something that you want to look at, we can definitely help with that.
Yeah.
Direct coaching, be in the room for 3 to 5 of these things and then hand off. We typically haven't done it all the way through. I mean, we're 5 folks that way, so our model is kind of this. but since it's local, we would be able to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess to that point, council, I would be interested in maybe something that looked like that, you know, the first 5 or 6 or something like that to teach us how to fish. I think that'd be something we should discuss or consider going forward, but that's good to know. Thank you very much. Okay.
We can certainly work with Eddie and his
Yeah.
team to bring something back to you and have you take a look at that.
Sure. Councilor Davis, I think you had another question or
Yeah, I
comment?
did. Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to be able to put, I guess, this question into daylight. And I'm sure it might get handed off to Mr. Johnson, but we raise all this money, millions and millions and millions of dollars. We just approved bonding out 15 million. We have a public-private partnership that's going. So when the money comes in, what happened to it from there?
So I can answer some of this, and I'll lean on Mr. Johnson a little bit. So there's been extensive conversations going on with our bond counsel, public bond counsel, bond attorney, Ms. Parker, Mr. Johnson, our private partners, their funding partners, their attorneys, to be able to kind of figure out some of the finance piece of it. For the capital campaign and how that plays in, the best we can do is get money in before bonding occurs. Because the more money we can get in before bonding occurs, the less the bond is, the less you have to pay back on that bond, the interest costs, the carrying costs, all that is associated. Now, we haven't gone out for those bonds. You've given us the authority to go out to up to $15 million in bonds. We did a bond ratings call Monday morning, so we are moving along in that process. But the actual bond timeline has us later this summer going out for bonding. So the goal would be we do as much as we can to bring in as much as we can to bring down costs, make it more affordable for families prior to bonding. Now, once the bonds occurred, there is certainly for any public bond, if we go out for a 20-year bond, there is a period of time where you can't just say, oh, great, we got all the money in the door, here's the money on that. Because ultimately the investors have made an investment in that bond. They have requirements for a number of years before you can actually call that bond. Generally, that's about 10 years is what we see, and that is that you have a 10-year period before you can just pay it off and be done with it or refinance it. It's something to that effect. The private side, they're figuring out what their time frame is. They're looking at a 30-year note, 30-year money. So the question is how many years before they could pay it off. And so then what it would do is if you get money after we've already bonded, then that money would go toward either it would go toward things, it would go toward the equipping of the facility. And so that's not a bonded piece of it. Or B, it could go toward paying down, making payments on that bond. And so you'd be making payments to pay down the debt associated with it.
Would it be split evenly between us and our partner?
So ultimately, that's going to be a decision that the council makes on that. Because ultimately, there's a public bond of $15 million for the community center. The private financing for it, we're expecting about a $32 million bond is what our private partner is anticipating pulling. So what we've talked about is the less that bond is, the less the private bond is, the lower the lease is. For the recreation center, for whoever is ultimately operating and managing the facility. So the lower the lease, the more affordable it is for the families who are going to become members there. So that's what we've looked at at a staff level, but at the end of the day, that's your determination.
Okay, thank you.
But to be clear, it doesn't go to the private partner. I mean, as far as like, do they get a share of any money that comes in? The answer, no, is the easy answer to that.
Okay, I got a couple of questions. Number one, you mentioned that it was a minimum or minimum payoff time is 10 years. Tentatively, is there a maximum payment per year? That's one question I have.
For our bond?
Yeah, for our bond.
So right now, the terms that we're looking at is a 20-year bond. We would go out to the middle of July and receive and close the end of July. What the private party has talked about is going out sometime in August, having the funding available early September. For our bond, at 15 million over 20 years, it's going to be roughly, we'll get the final numbers middle of July, but it's going to be roughly about 1.1 million per year. For the private bond, what they've shown us so far, but it's at a higher amount than what we think they're going to need at this point. It was 3.1 million. We do expect that to come down. So we're working with them, and they're working with their lender to finalize their details that they can give to us, and then we can make decisions there. But for our bond, it's about 1.1 million.
And all of that will be part of other contracts that we will be bringing to you that have more detail associated with that piece of this puzzle.
I guess where am I going with my questioning is that we got a $1.1 million payment each year. Is there any possibility, or can you pay more than that 1.1 million?
No, we cannot during the lockout period. Once we can refund, or you either refund it into a lower cost bond or you pay it off, typically that's 10 years, but we can have it a little bit less than that. One of our work bonds, we have 8 years. So that's the negotiation at the time that we're going out for the bond. So again, that's some of the details that you gave to us to look at. So that also depends on how much is it going to cost to have less years. So right now we're looking at the 10-year because that gives us a little bit payment and lower rate.
Clark Regional has done that. Turned around, I want to say refinance their bond, and got back out from it and got a lot of cheaper bond. But the other thing, I've got a simplistic idea. As far as naming rights, you've got 3 or 4 or 4 or 5 individuals that you will be putting, trying to find the right word, pressure on. No, offering the opportunity for that. And where I'm coming from, the simplistic idea, I'm a cattle farmer. I was at the cattle auction last Friday. And we get into auctioning and start working them against each other nicely, but how interested are they in? And you start out with a little higher ante and then work it down and see what you come up with. You might be surprised.
My mentor taught me that, right? You can never go back up, so you start high.
No.
But I think that what the important point here is a leadership gift, right? Again, we've identified kind of a tier 1 of those donors, and there really is a domino effect with that group, and those are the folks that you're going to be looking at that $6 to $8 million naming rights valuation.
Okay. Actually, with the cattle auction, you do try high, you don't get it,
Yeah.
you back down, and once you get down and somebody jumps in, then you start working back up, and you bring the others back in, and well, we got an X bid, and let's go a little higher, another 3 million or another 5 million. You got a good auctioneer, he can get a lot out of people. Okay, that's it. That's my simplistic idea. Okay.
Great. Councilor Hamilton.
Thank you. So we are asking people for large sums of money. And so I'm just curious who and how, it's something I want us to think about as like a post-campaign stewardship plan for us to make sure that we are respecting, honoring, valuing the contribution they're making to the community, and that we have a plan in place for that. So not necessarily a question if it hasn't been thought of yet, but something that I would like, that is important to me.
Great, thank you. Other questions, council? Any comments? Okay. I think we're done. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and we look forward to more conversations and stuff going forward. Mr. Stewart, I'll turn over to you for closing.
No, just thank you for the conversation, the ideas on this, the clarifications. We'll make some tweaks to it. We'll make some changes to kind of hit on what you were talking about here. We'll regroup and kind of think about, all right, what is the additional follow-up we can provide. If you have additional questions or feedback to provide us, certainly please do, and we'll make sure we integrate that into the final report before we take these next steps.
Great. All right. Sounds like a plan. Thank you very much again.
Thank you,
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah. Okay. That's a presentation only. There will be no action on that this evening. But we will move into our business portion of the meeting where we have a couple of action items. The first one is the second reading of ordinance number 1481. This is the NIE Plan Unit Development Agreement, and for that we'll go to Ms. Claire Lust in the Community Development Department.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council and members of the public. This is an item that came before you the second meeting in May for a public hearing and first ordinance reading. It is a development agreement for the NIE Planned Unit Development Project. Just as a quick refresher, the orange shows the location of the project, the parcels that would be subject to this development agreement, and some surrounding features. Off of North Royal. Next slide, please. Zoom in on the approved plan unit development, 62 lots in a medium density residential zone. Due to that zoning, it was approved with paired attached townhomes. That is the western portion of the property. Next slide, please. The proposed terms of the development agreement, as we reviewed at the last meeting, were for the applicant, the owner, to dedicate open space parcel that is the eastern portion of the subject area as a city park, with trail connections, including connections directly to Boyce Park to the east and the Kemper Loop development to the south, where there are already trail stubs. And the park and trail dedications would be PIF credit eligible. And then to meet requirements for missing middle housing and comply with the preliminary decision approving this is a townhome project to allow side entry and 2-car garages on these paired townhomes. As a quick update, this is the only update since the last time we reviewed this. We did add language and updated the packet this afternoon just to confirm in the DA that these products would have covered entries, the side entries would be covered, and that the rear portion of the homes would have minimum 100 square foot covered rear patios. All right, next slide, please. Just as an example, this is the same thing you saw last time. The applicant provided a rendering of what would be similar to the housing product here. Again, what was approved was paired attached townhomes, so imagine two of these next to each other with that side entry and 2-car garage. And the next slide, again, as you saw previously, shows how that eastern portion would be of the property would be converted to park and trail property, including connections to Boyce Park, which is the neon green, and Kemper Loop, which is the yellow. So with that, Mayor, I will turn it back to you for any questions.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Lust. Council, any questions on this one? Councilor Davis.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. If you could leave it on that slide. So I am trying to see how that connects to Boyce. I mean, I see Boyce. We're looking at the white line though, right?
Yeah, the white line is the conceptual trail alignment through this project, and where it stubs to the northeast to what's labeled as City of Ridgefield property, that is Boyce Park. And there is an existing trail system that was the farm road in that property that's currently accessible as part of Boyce Park and would be a direct connection.
Okay.
It's just in the trees.
It's just in the trees and not white. Okay, that answers that question. Perfect, thank you.
Other questions, council? All right, easy peasy. If there's no other questions, we'll go ahead and move forward. And Ms. Julie, would you please read the ordinance into the record?
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance number 1481, ordinance of the City of Ridgefield, Washington, approving a development agreement with H2 NIE LLC for the development of the NIE residential community.
Great, thank you very much. At this point, council, I would entertain a motion.
I move to adopt ordinance number 1481 as presented.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved by Davis, seconded by Favela to approve ordinance number 1481 as presented. Any remaining discussion, council? Hearing none. Ms. Julie, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Favela?
Yes.
Councilmember Wells?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Chipman?
Yes.
Mayor Cole?
Aye. Okay, thank you, council. The motion carries and item passes. All right. On to our next item of business. This is a motion to approve the Quail Landing final plat. And Ms. Luss, we'll go back over to you on that one as well.
Great, thank you again, Mayor. This is the Quail Landing final plat. Next slide, please. For some orientation, it is shown on the highlighted parcel. Key landmark that is familiar to you all is just north of the Ridgefield Community and Recreation Center site. Next slide. Right, the project was approved as a 16-lot subdivision. These are single-family detached product lots. The lots range from 5,000 square feet to just over 9,600 square feet, consistent with the preliminary approval. Average lot area is 5,700 square feet. Because the project area didn't contain or does not contain any critical areas or critical area buffers, it was not required to go through the planned unit development process. Pretty unique for projects here in Ridgefield. And because of that, you don't see some of the larger park and trail tracks in this project that you do in a lot of ones that come before you. However, as I mentioned, it is right adjacent to the future recreation center site, providing that recreation opportunity. All right, I think that is all I have to share for this one. So Mayor, again, I will pass it back to you.
Sounds good. Okay, we'll start with Councilor Favela.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Lust, how is Lot 7 accessed? Because I can see like Lot 11, 12, they have that north fourth way, but what is the road to get to Lot 7, or is it on the opposite side?
Lot 7 has an access easement off the cul-de-sac. It's pretty
Okay.
faint on here, but you see some dotted lines. Lot 7 and Lot 8, is that Lot 6 or Lot 8 to the north? I can't quite see it. Lot 8 will essentially have a shared driveway.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Sorry, I didn't see that on here. Thank you.
Other questions? So I'm curious about these lots on like the lower, I guess, east side there. I can't read the numbers, like lots 1, 2, like that row right there. So those are, you entered those lots all from 50th right there? That's where the driveway entrance is?
That's correct.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Okay, other questions, council? All right. If there are no questions, I would ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve Quail Landing final plat as presented.
Second. Okay, it's been moved by Chipman, seconded by, I heard Wells. Council discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, thank you. Motion carries. All right, that will conclude our business for the evening. Thank you, council. Thank you, staff, for that. We're going to move back into public comment. At this time, anyone wishing to address City Council regarding items not subject to a specific public hearing may come forward to the podium at this time or use the raise hand feature located at the toolbar at the bottom of your Zoom screen. For controls over the phone, press *9 for raise hand and press *6 to mute or unmute. Please state your name and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
My name is Michael Jennings. Ridgefield leaders are carefully logical managers. How do we avoid being influenced by poorly managed organizations and people who are not logical? Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room this evening wishing to give comment?
My name's Brad Janeway. I sent an email to council. Did you receive it? All right. So I just wanted to review that. I don't know if I need to do that to get it into the record or if the email is sufficient.
I mean, email's sufficient. If you want to, if there's anything you want to add to it now, you could. But
just, I guess, a couple of comments. I think it was Councilor Davis, when the youth committee was presenting, I was listening in, and I was surprised when they didn't look to Washington to find out what we had. They went to Texas, and I'm puzzled about that. This is the result of a couple of hours. Might have saved an entire semester of research. So I think I'm thinking along the lines of the one youth on that committee who said, I just want to speak truth. I don't want to offend anybody. And it just mentioned that the guidance that was given up front was unclear. So I don't know who the people were or what the council or guidance was, but if I make a guess, I think the intent of bringing that group together was to answer the question, what does Ridgefield need to do in order to protect riders and the public in the area of e-bikes? Now I ride an analog bike. This is an e-bike. My wife isn't a cyclist, and so I bought those 3 years ago. And as it turns out, today, the law becomes official that I was aware of, and I was surprised it didn't come up during that semester's worth of, or school year's worth of research, actually. And it covers, I believe, all of the things that the youth council or committee brought up. And so I would say that the answer to the question that I would have expected to be given to them as a task, what does Ridgefield need to do in order to protect e-bike riders and the public, is nothing. Because Washington State has already covered all the bases. I don't think they missed anything. And in fact, what was brought out from the research from the Texas group pretty well lined up with what Senate Bill 6110 says. So I don't think there's anything for you to do, and I would say we've spent a lot of time getting to the point of having this proposal. I don't think there's any need for us to spend any more time, energy, money, whatever, implementing something that's already in place at the state level. All right. And I can show you on my bike. I bought it 3 years ago. It has a little tiny sticker. I had to go looking for it today because I'd never seen it. And it says 240 watt, 28 miles an hour, and class 3. So these things are already in place and have been for years. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else wishing to give public comment in the room? Seeing none. Miss Julie, anybody online?
Not seeing no one online.
Okay, we're gonna close public comment for the evening, and we're gonna go into council and staff reports. Council, is there anybody who's itching to go first?
Yes.
Okay, Councilor Wells, you're it.
Last time I had no report. I'm going to fool you this time. I'm going to make up for lost time. No. Some of the things we done was on the 3rd was our coffee talk. And we only had 11, 12 people there. But we set the tables up in a round circle, and everybody, and individuals, only one at a time, they talked. And we really, really enjoyed it. They enjoyed it. We got thanked so many times. And I would highly recommend to do it more often, quarterly, 3 times a year in the fall or something that way. We really, Clyde's not here to speak up tonight, but we both had an excellent rapport with the people, and they enjoyed it. On the 5th, we had the e-bike workshop, which all of us attended. On the 5th, there was a port workshop. A lot of people were there, made their comments, but things have toned down a little bit with them having their meeting on the 17th. I went to the port meeting briefing yesterday. Port meeting, they discussed their East Ridge development, which is out by Dollar Tree, by our new water tower, 10-acre parcel, or just a hair over 10 acres. So they're going to be moving forward on that. And tonight, the council. I'm through.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Councilor Hamilton?
Sure, thank you. So I wrote a few things down here. First of which was the Eastside Reservoir groundbreaking, which was incredible and really cool to be a part of the design. To think one day we're going to see that tower up and have a hand in that. It's one of the coolest parts of this job, I think. I attended the Ridgefield Main Street Board of Directors meeting, which was interesting in a transition phase right now. And then my first Ridgefield Chamber of Commerce meeting, which I'm really excited about the direction that our chamber is going in. They have a lot of strategic planning they're doing, consultants that they're bringing in, a lot of intentionality behind creating a really supportive space for businesses within the city of Ridgefield, which is a huge passion of mine too. Worked on the Youth Commission study session. I was able to, in my regular job and overlap into this job, attend the Community Foundation Luncheon, which I think is a really important nonprofit that brings together donors, nonprofits, communities, and identifies challenges and creates solutions to maximize impact in Southwest Washington. So I love in this job and in my new job and every arena getting to be a part of these groups that are truly making change and putting intentionality into our community, which is really cool. I attended the school board meeting this week. They are rolling out their strategic plan, which they've spent the last year working on. So the board members were really deciding on the language in which that would go out to parents and how much detail they wanted to give versus not. And then last night I went to the Greet Magazine social at Ridgefield Craft Brewing, which was really cool to talk to a lot of local business owners there. And so my last plug on that would just be to remind everyone to support local.
Great. Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Favela.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've had a busy last couple of weeks. I have attended the Community Action Advisory Board, which I am appointed to, the ECHO meeting, and then I'm also on the subcommittee for the Law Enforcement Regional Work Group. And I also attended the Opioid Abatement Council. I also graduated from Leadership Clark County, so that was cool. You will notice that the firehouse, the boathouse is back, and I don't know if anybody had the opportunity, but there was a huge tugboat that you just don't usually see in Lake River, and it was really fun to watch this giant tugboat come in and push the house back. So if anybody got to see that, I hope you enjoyed it. We welcomed our Raptor player, Michael, number 10, to our home. He's going to be living with us this summer. He's a phenomenal young man, and I'm really happy to have him this summer. And then lastly, tomorrow is the Ridgefield High School graduation, where we have over 300 Ridgefield students graduating. And I have been busy attending these graduation parties, and I am so in awe of the young people that we have in our community, and it really makes me emotional just being able to love up on these babies and speak life into them and be able to see what they're gonna do. And I am incredibly proud of every student who will walk across that stage tomorrow. So that's all I got.
Okay, Councilor Davis.
Yeah. Sorry, couldn't help myself. Thank you, Mayor. I'll echo my colleagues' comments about the water reservoir. Very cool. We talked about the Youth Commission meeting as well. That was valuable. I was excited to see what year one produced and to be able to take some of the wins and some of the lessons and things like that. Also, by the way, I'm totally stealing analog bike as a term. I absolutely love that. I too ride an analog bike. Let's see. I had the CTRAN Board of Directors meeting that I sit on. We actually met a little bit earlier. It was kind of like phase 2 of the annual retreat, and it was really talking a lot about income, and then they are going through a CTRAN 2045 process similar to our comp plan update that really just takes a look at where do we want to be and what's it going to take to get there. And so that's been a good process to really see what that network is going to look like in our community as it gets a lot more dense, especially in Vancouver, and just bigger in general, or more populated, I should say. And I would guess the last thing I would mention that's noteworthy, just because it was in the news, CTRAN did decide to condemn. We voted to condemn 3 parcels that's related to the development of the Purple Vine, which is the one going from WSU Vancouver all the way down to the Vancouver waterfront. They worked with property owners, and one of them literally just said, dude, just condemn it. Like, they weren't wanting to dance at all. And so they are not big pieces of property. My understanding is none of them are bigger than the size of this room. And so we're not talking about massive parcels, but, you know, pieces that they need to be able to complete the route. So it was in the paper, so I figured I'd mention, give a little bit of background. That's what I got.
Cool. Thank you, Counselor. Mayor Pro Tem.
So I too really enjoyed listening to our youth council talk about the work that they had done and some of the thoughts that they had about it. They were very, very interesting, very bright group of kids. So I can't wait to see what we give them to work on next, see what they come up with. As most of you know, if you attend very regularly, I am very involved with the Neighbors Helping Neighbors Food Bank. And so we started a strategic plan working with Point North Consulting. And that was quite a challenge for the first meeting, working with them. So they have not ever been through anything like this before. And so we had our first 4-hour meeting, and we are going to work on looking at how we can do things differently and serve the public better, and possibly expand our services to meet more and more of the needs of the community. So we're going to be doing that over the next couple of months, and so that's a real challenge for us. We had 65 families this week come through, so the need grows. We did run a tally of where we are drawing our customers from, and the largest percentage is from Ridgefield, but we actually draw clients from Camas, Washougal, Woodland, Battleground. It's just amazing how far people will come to the food bank. And so they have to enter their zip code. So last night I sat down and tallied it all up and where they were all from. We have a couple from Chula Vista, California, actually, which means that people are traveling through and need food and find out there's a food bank there. And so thank goodness they do find that out, and we're able to provide something for them. But anyway, it's always a challenge, and it's always very, very rewarding. Other than that, I've just been busy with baseball, so. Yeah.
Heck yeah. Okay, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. For me, a lot of the same events have mentioned, so I'll go quickly, but just wanted to touch on a couple of quick things. Earlier this week, I attended the Friends of the Refuge Board meeting, which is a quick meeting, but I was encouraged to hear that one thing that came out of that is that the Department of Fish and Wildlife Service, they actually received approval for a permanent hire of a program manager. So I know that's been a gap in their staffing for a long time. I know something that we've been lobbying for. We went to DC, we talked about it. They said they're trying to get more staffing out there. So it's really encouraging to hear that there is staffing on the way. They think that they're gonna have a new manager probably in place by fall. So that's really good news. And it's always good to see that some of your efforts, I don't know how much it was related to us directly, but it always feels good to see something like that pay off. I like when else attended the Eastside Reservoir groundbreaking. That's an exciting development. We haven't done anything like that in a long time. That's 2.5 million gallons of storage, water storage coming to Ridgefield in the future. It should be online in 2028, so that's pretty exciting. Earlier this week, the city manager and I met with Chair Sue Marshall from the Clark County Council to talk about the comp plan and do some follow-up there. Just answer some questions, have some loose ends and stuff, but they're tracking on it to take action on it and finalize it later this year. So let's see, actually today I completed my 10th tour with second and third graders of City Hall over the last couple of weeks. There's been a bunch of different classes coming in here. I didn't know that being tour guide was on the job description of being mayor, but it was a lot of fun. I'm going to tell you the truth. They ask all kinds of crazy questions. We tell all the fun stories about bank robberies and fossils we found, like mammoth tusks that are there and everything like that. So it's always really fun to do that. And the question I get asked by these kids all the time is, well, what's your favorite part of the job? And I really mean it when I tell them, it's like, actually this is great. You don't do this job unless you're a people person. And whether they're small people or older people or whatever, it's a lot of fun just to interact with them and get to know them and then share an experience with them. So that's always really fun as well. Actually, last weekend I got to join other regional mayors from around Southwest Washington and Oregon at the invitation of Mayor Keith Wilson in Portland to walk in the Rose Festival, the Grand Floral Starlight Parade over the weekend. It was something I was not sure about doing, but I thought I'm going to do it anyways. There was, I think, over 50 mayors who did it, and it was a lot of fun to do that. I got my parade kind of mindset going and set for the 4th, but it was good to do that. Got to speak to Mayor Wilson on some of his plans and how they're trying to revive their city, and I got to say I do appreciate his vision and his optimism. They call him like the Ted Lasso of Portland, and after talking with him, I can see why. So kind of a cool thing. I also got to MC the annual Uniridge Parade that happened last week, so I'm in total parade mode right now. But that was a lot of fun too, to see all these elementary school kids celebrate their projects throughout the end of the year. Last weekend we had the On Target Driving School ribbon cutting. I'd like to welcome them to Ridgefield. It's always good to see new businesses, especially downtown businesses opening in town. And of course, Big Paddle for Saturday was last weekend. And as a note, you mentioned neighbors helping neighbors, and it reminded me that I think we heard two or three recipients of our rental assistance program at this point? Okay, gonna cover that. I'll stop there and let you cover it, but kind of cool to see that the work that we did and see that actually become a reality. So, and then also this coming next week, I'll be joining Coin TV in the morning to do their Mayor Monday segment and get to talk about rice in downtown in Ridgefield. So I'm looking forward to sharing what we've been working on here since I was on there last year. So without that, that's all I got. City Manager, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council and the community. Yes, thank you very much, Mayor, for playing tour guide at City Hall. It is always fun having the kids running around and the questions they ask and just the chaos that goes along with that. And to have you managing that is very much appreciated. You did lose one kid, which I'm not going to blame you. That's on the teacher that left the kid behind. But literally, there was a second grader that was using the facilities and came out, and the whole class had already left. And it was very much a Home Alone moment. Thank goodness for our City Hall staff who jumped into action and walked the young lady up to class, back to the school, and the school did not seem super concerned about any of it, which was very strange to me. But, it's one of those things that you're like, huh. But a lot of fun having all those kids there. And all good with that. And the kid didn't seem fazed by it at all. The kid was just telling stories the entire way up as our City Hall staff was helping them out. A couple other things I wanted to touch on. Several of you are going to the Association of Washington Cities annual conference in a couple of weeks. At that conference, one of the conversations we'll be having is with the AWC staff about some of the costs of housing that the state imposes. There have been a lot of conversations from the state about the costs of housing that are created by local jurisdictions. They speak to fees, such as school impact fees, which wouldn't be necessary if the bond passage requirements were more equitable, or if they actually just funded schools more, the impact fees wouldn't be necessary, and the same with traffic. So on a fee schedule side of it, we want to have a conversation with the state about things they can do to actually help, as well as on some of the regulatory front. We have been dealing with them extensively on stormwater and water issues, and I had a great conversation with other city managers today about some of their struggles, and we're going to document those and push them back up the chain to the state, so that give them a little chance to look in the mirror about how they can help meet some of these housing crises that we have seen. So look forward to that conversation and that work. Speaking of the regional parks study work that I know Councilor Davis was a part of, Mr. Crownhart was part of as well. In some of the discussions I've had this week, it sounds like the county is looking to move forward with a regional metropolitan parks district. The city of Vancouver is open to the idea, but wants to see equity in where the funding goes to assure that the percentage of funding coming from the taxpayers that is from Vancouver, that it goes into Vancouver's parks, and that there is a flow that does recognize there's some larger parks that have a larger capital cost, and that's a one-time, but then that is then made up for by revenues going toward local parks. So it's something we'll get you more information on. I know that Councilor Davis was a big part of that. I can tell you that the other cities that were a party to that have not expressed a great interest in joining some sort of regional levy and having taxpayer revenues going to parks outside of our jurisdiction, but it's something we'll keep you in the loop on and as we move forward with that. CTRAN, speaking of regional, we've had conversations with council. I had conversations with my peers about the structure for the 2 votes that small cities get on the CTRAN Board of Directors. We're working on a draft that I will be actually sending back to the other city managers that would structure those 2 votes as having 2 representatives for all of the small cities combined, and with a process for how you would determine who those voters are, who those board representatives are, and how they represent. So I'll be working more with you all on that, but good progress on that front. And last but not least, you received a letter earlier this week, and you had someone speak in public comment about that this evening, about kratom and the ability to regulate the substance. Council in our briefings asked the question, is that something that we can look at doing as well? We've done preliminary research into what Spokane and Spokane Valley have done and a couple of other jurisdictions. It appears that we are not preempted by the state in being able to regulate the sale and distribution of kratom in our jurisdiction. So it's something that our city attorney is looking at to bring something forward to you on a potential prohibition of sale and distribution of kratom in Ridgefield. So we'll be bringing that back to you for further deliberation. With that, lots else going on, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you, Mr. Stewart. Any questions for the City Manager Council? Okay, thank you very much. We'll go to Mr. Thamert in Public Works.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight I just wanted to provide an update on our downtown parking and traffic changes that you or this council approved last year. We had some good weather this year to start, early on in the spring, so our streets crew was able to get a head start, and they have been able to complete about 99% of the work that they were going to do, that we were going to do in-house. They're waiting on a few traffic signs, but all the painting is done, and our capital projects team has an RFP out and is taking bids for the next 3 weeks for the 4th Avenue parking and conversion to a one-way. That project was a little more complex and involved than our staff wanted to do in-house, so the capital team is working on that. After 3 weeks, so around early to mid-July, we'll have a schedule on that, but the work will be completed before school starts in the fall. With that, happy to answer any questions.
Great, any questions for the Public Works Director? All right, thank you very much, we appreciate it. Looking for those changes. Mr. Johnson in City Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. So you wanted an update. Several meetings ago, Council approved the rental assistance program. So with that, it's a combination of the city working with Compassion 360 and Ridgefield School District Family Resource Center. So we have had 3 so far that we've been able to help families stay in their homes. And I just wanted to kind of let you know how things came to us. The first one came from Compassion 360, so they weren't a family with kids in the school. The second one came from the school district having kids in the school. The third one of our staff members had somebody walk in the door and they wanted to do a payment plan because utility payments are coming up due. And the gentleman that was in mentioned that they just lost their job. So she said, hey, we do have this program. Then found out that they have kids in the school district, so she suggested that they go over to the Family Resource Center, talk to them, see if there's other options that they could do. Family Resource Center helped them get all the paperwork completed, get back to us so that we could help them pay their rent for the month and help them work towards what council wanted. Whether or not they got other services, that I'm not sure, but not only do they have what could have been either a payment plan, but we could also do utility assistance and the rental assistance as well. So the program's working great, the partnership's working really good, and everybody's very happy and satisfied of the help that we're doing for the community.
That's wonderful.
Wonderful, I love hearing that.
Love
Yeah,
it.
thank you. Any questions for the Finance Director? All right, thanks for sharing that, that's really
Yes,
good.
that's great.
I love hearing that, yeah. Okay, Ms. Parker and our City Attorney. Okay, Any questions? All right, off the hook. And Ms. Luss, we'll go to you for community development updates.
Nothing else from me. They're happy to answer questions.
Okay, any questions for community development? Okay, seeing none. Ms. Donneris. All right. Welcome back, Chief. Good to see you again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Happy to be back. I had good adventures over in Paris and London, and I did not, however, make it to Disney Paris, so that was a little disheartening. But
Shocked.
we'll get back there.
Yeah.
One of the things I did want to bring up tonight that is an update for council is I know that Mr. Johnson had told you that we were in compliance with House Bill 2015, but a further update is because we are in compliance with House Bill 2015 regarding the public safety sales tax, it also opened the door for us to apply for grant funding. We, on June 2nd, received notification from the Criminal Justice Training Commission that we received we have been awarded up to $1,104,231 in grant funding.
Wow.
Because we are in compliance with that. So super excited that as a small agency, we were in the top 9 in the state to get that, and then also to receive this grant funding. So very, very excited for what that means for public safety in the city of Ridgefield, and very much thank you to you for adopting the public safety sales tax.
Thank you. How much did we apply for with that grant?
You know, I don't have that direct, Kirk.
So we applied for $250,000
That's what I
for
thought,
2
yeah.
positions. And that would have covered 75% of an entry-level staff.
Yeah.
So as we were getting to the end of the compliance part, they said, well, we really want to get money out the door, so we're willing to listen to more. And part of this came from our grant writer, and she's just absolutely fantastic. She was reading a story on one of the cities that had been one of the first, and they had asked for 1 position, yet they were getting, it's like $375,000 or something like that. And she's questioning, okay, they initially said that you could get the first year. How are they getting $375,000? So she went and did some research and started talking to people and found out they'll cover up to 3 years or up to the 2028 timeline that the grant program ends. So she started talking with CJTC. They said, yeah, we'll cover more on that. They're going to cover the cars. They're going to cover all the training. They're going to cover all the outfitting for the cars, outfitting for the officers, and then a couple of new software programs that we had done grant asks last year that we didn't get. So with all that, unfortunately, they won't cover the 3 years. You know, it just took over a year to get approved. They made it so easy. But because of that, you know, there's 1 year that we can't get because we're not going to be able to get the officers in the door in time. We can get it for 2027 and 2028 and any residual that would be this year as well. But it all came out with that conversation our grant writer had, and then all the work that the chief did to update policies and jump through hoops, and you know, it was a very difficult thing to get through, but they did a fantastic job, and it turned out that we got significantly more than what we asked for.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That's a credit to them.
Yeah, I love hearing that. That's a great story. Please pass along our gratitude to Kristen on that. And Chief, thank you for the work you did on that. And yeah, I know that was a heavy lift, but it really paid off. So that's exciting. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Counselor.
I don't mean to brag, but you guys make Ridgefield look amazing, and we are compared to some of our neighbors. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right. With that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, Council.